Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Big MX Radio Podcast. This is an episode of Moto Albums. Now, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you're going to want to go find Big MX Radio on YouTube so you can actually enjoy the visual side of this podcast because this is one of the things that's near and dear to my heart. I love photography. Magazines as a kid, like many people who are probably listening to this, probably looking at the pictures more than they are reading the articles. Maybe that's on me, but either way, absolutely love photography, and I love talking to photographers about their shots. I've done these in the past. This is the first one for 2025. This is Moto Albums, and with me on the line is Derrick from DNC Photography. Derrick, how's it going?
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
Is it Derrick Croker or Derrick Crocker?
Crocker, like Betty Crocker.
Like Betty
Yeah,
Crocker, and
that's
you've
what all
been
my
cooking
friends
up
call me.
some tasty licks
Yeah,
with the photography lately, man. Before
trying
we
to
sort
bake.
of what's that?
Said trying to bake the goods.
Yeah, absolutely. And have them delivered to your many clients that you have on race day. Yeah, you and I connected over the weekend. I said, hey, why don't we pull the trigger on one of these? You seem keen on it. I think you're going to do some live streaming later on today. So you're just Mr. Media guy, like left, right, and center here on a Wednesday. But yeah, before we get into sort of some photos and sort of like analyzing your photos and kind of like what was so special about the specific moment, let's get a little bit of the peek behind the curtain of like Derrick Crocker, the photographer, how that came to be, and where you're at now.
So for me, it kind of like started with a smartphone. Honestly, got a smartphone, took it outside my backyard, started taking cool photos of the dumbest stuff ever, and then finally asked for a camera for Christmas. Got a camera, and that eventually led me to the dirt bike track with my friends. Started taking a couple dirt bike photos here and there, and then you know that got boring. Started doing some weddings, some portraits. Uh, did that whole shindig, which I still do every now and then. But then I finally was able to afford my own dirt bike when I finally got a real job, and I was like, "Oh, this is sick." Taking my dirt bike, definitely taking my camera to the track. We're gonna do this thing. Started going to the local races, shooting bunch of kids at the locals or a bunch of kids from the local races and whatnot.
Where is local, by the way?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so that's not too bad.
No,
Got quite a bit around here. Club.
you're near my other co-host Zach Heron.
Yeah.
He flies in and out of there all the time.
I was gonna say Zach. I didn't know from Zach from Imperative, but now it's
No,
different guy.
different Zach. No C or no H.
Gotcha. But
But
yeah,
go
that's
on.
kind of how that started, dude. And then, after shooting a bunch of local races and learning that I could make money selling photos that way, I was like, this is fun, but I want to all I want to do is shoot one pro race. Like I just want to know what it's like. And then that's when I just started begging people to let me in. And that's kind of how I got my start. And, you know, that's not my main job. I work for the airlines here and there, or not here and there. I work for the airlines and that's my main job. And then I fly out to the races on Friday and shoot Saturday, edit all day Sunday, come home, and the grind continues for however many races we got. What, 33, I think, 34.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's yeah, 31 total races, and yeah, it's ridiculous what like now it used to be. Yeah, there was one time where it was 16 supercrosses and 12 outdoor nationals. Now we've cut back one national, kept how many supercrosses, and now we have three playoff rounds. As now I'm having a hard time with my screen sharing because I tried to do something and then I fucked it up, which is awesome. So as I like continue on with that, continue telling me your like sort of your journey as I do visual gymnastics here.
Visual gymnastics, love that. Yeah, so like back at the whole begging people, like most people that follow like professional moto photography and want to get into it and know that it's super duper hard to do. It's really hard to get a credential. So the way I kind of did it was I was just like an annoying little asshole. Honestly, I started
Perfect.
going to started going to local races, and then that led to qualifiers, Loretta Lynn's. Um, Luckily for me, Vurbmoto decided to come around to North Carolina and do a couple of their Verb Classics and Verb Shred Tours, which are amazing events if you can ever get out to one.
Hmm.
So I started doing that, went out to a couple of those, shot for Wes and whatnot, and then basically begged Wes to,
He likes
like,
when people beg, so that helps.
yeah, I luckily for me, a lot of people, I tell people this all the time. I'm like, dude, if you want to get a start in this, like, you really got to like hound these people. Like, let let me shoot one race for you and just show you what I can do. And I hear it all the time, like, oh, I messaged him, he never messaged me back. Well, yeah, that was me too, but I freaking just hounded him and kept showing up to their races. It was like, yo, dude, like, I'm shooting this for you. You like my work. We're cool. Like, you know, how about
Yeah.
that credential? Can we make it happen? And after about 3 solid years of busting my ass and, you know, shooting locals and Verb Shred Tours and qualifiers and traveling all over the state of North Carolina and Tennessee, I finally was able to get in, and it kind of one thing led to another, and Moto Playground saw my work somehow, and that's kind of how I ended up with them and currently with them. So it's pretty cool.
It certainly is. Yeah, and what I love about that story is you faced resistance, you faced
Mm-hmm.
the adversity of trying to get into the motocross industry, and you didn't quit. There are so many people
Yeah.
who like they put themselves out there. I went out on a limb and tried, and I got denied, and they don't try past that. There is
Yeah.
like, and then on top of that, you're also just continuing to work on your craft, and to the point where and this is a big thing for me is that I've told this to other content creators in the past is you essentially have to become undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
If you are that diligent and if you are that hardworking and if you are willing to bring that much value at some point, if your services are useful to the publication that you're asking for, they're going to have to give you that opportunity to at least
Yeah.
lose that privilege, right?
Yeah.
So, it's yeah, like kudos to you for first of all putting yourself out there, but also
Yeah.
sticking to it. Is it time to go through some of your work?
Yeah, dude, we can.
All right. So, first thing that comes off of my and I don't if are you in contact with Justin whatsoever? Because I need to speak with him. Justin Barsha, I'm a
Oh,
big fan of his,
oh,
but
dude, he's so sick on a bike.
he's so sick, and he is the clutch destroyer. Although, like you could argue now, Eli Tomac is trying to take that crown away from him.
You ain't kidding, bro.
But last year, before the season, I made a reel about how tall the starting blocks are getting.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin Barsha happened to be the subject of this because his starting blocks were like, oh, I don't know, about an inch lower than his foot pegs.
Really?
A week later, I am blocked by Justin Barsha.
No way.
Oh yeah,
Oh man, you can't be blocked by Barsha, dude.
I dude. He doesn't know all my accounts, which is good. So I can still see his stuff every once in a while. But yeah, and I haven't seen him in person. Because I don't think he was at. I don't think he was
I
at.
bet if you went up to Barsha in the pits or something and told
If
him the
I
story,
told him,
yeah,
yeah, I
he's
know,
probably
I
like,
know how to talk to him about it, but
yeah,
like, geez, like,
over
I'm
the
like,
starting
why
blocks,
can't I
bro.
see Justin Barcia's photo? Oh, fuck,
Yeah,
fucking
dude.
blocked.
Yeah, no, you got to get that taken care of.
Yeah, but so tell me about this photo of Justin here. This is from last year, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. This is last year. This was I don't know. I don't think this was a main event win. I don't believe. I think it may have been a
Mm,
heat race, or because I know he won MetLife.
it must be a heat race win because yeah, if he
Yeah,
got a win last year, it was in the mud, was it not?
yeah, it was at MetLife in the mud,
Yeah,
and he's definitely not muddy. And plus, the you'd see like the orange from the flames and whatnot. So I
that's
think that
right.
was a heat race win. But bro, he was feeling it, and this to this day is still probably the sickest whip photo or top three for sure. It's
Hmm.
my current desktop background actually still for like 2 years now or whatever.
Love it.
Yeah, that, and then there was a couple different angles of this shot too that a lot of other people in the media pool got as well from different angles. But I think I was the only one that decided to go more to the side and try it. And I didn't know
Hmm.
if I was going to do it. And at the time, I was shooting with a D850, and DSLR. All cameras are iffy. Autofocus is iffy, especially when you're shooting in low light and you got all this crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't expect Barsha to throw the fattest whip ever, but luckily, like I had my camera on him. He came over, he threw it, and dude, the 850 just it almost screwed me because I think he was blurry for like probably 5 or 6 frames, and then I snagged this one, and then the rest of the frames were like blurry. So it worked out at the perfect time, uh, and it's just a sick photo, honestly.
It is. And if I was to describe how Justin Barsha whips a motorcycle, I would describe it as violent.
Violent, dude.
He
He
is
is like
violent.
he freaking throws the bike. It's that he's probably between him and Roxon. They're definitely like my favorite to watch.
Very similar though.
Yeah, Barsha's kind of on a whole nother level when it comes to just tossy, flicky stuff.
Hmm.
Like he break taps and like nose dips that thing like so low in rhythm sections, and it's just like it's the sickest thing ever to watch. It's like a madman. It's crazy.
No, it totally is. Like I think I don't think that he can do anything aside from sort of like I know he can do is the oppos, but like
Yeah,
he pretty much always does a turn down. Like he always kind of like just makes the front end drop, swings
yeah,
the back end around, but he's always like he gets the back end higher than most, and he can just
yeah,
like sort of like he snaps it up there and then brings it right back. Like
yeah.
a finish line double at a supercross is not a big jump. We're talking
Oh,
maybe 55, 60 feet at the very longest.
yeah.
And it's basically just straight up, straight down. And
I don't
yeah,
know how they do it. It blows
no.
my mind. Like me. I'll go to a local track and try to pull a tear off, and I'm like freaking out because I'm like I take my hand off for like one
Mhm.
second. These dudes are throwing the fattest whips over these like
While pulling tear offs.
yeah, while it's like the smallest jump really for them. It's
Yeah, no, and like, or when you're at Redbud and they like hit they hit the fucking
yeah,
leap and
yeah,
they just like just stab the back brake and it goes yeah and like
yeah.
the whole bike just dips. You're like, this Prado was doing that at Motocross the Nations 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Insane, bro. And hopefully Prado's good for this year because him and outdoors is going to be insane.
It will be as a proud owner of two really shitty shoulders. I'm here to say that if he's back by Anaheim 1 or not Anaheim 1, like Hangtown slash I think is it now the Hangtown first round or is
It's
it
Fox, right?
Fox Raceway? If he's back by Fox, I'm blown away
Yeah, yeah. My
because
shoulder's the same way. It's always been screwed up. So
yeah, I don't like his chances. But this was one of the first photos that you sent over. Like, what was the main reason why, aside from the fact that you just happened to snap this like just epic whip?
yeah, honestly, this one there's just not a lot of really meaning behind it, other than just Justin's an animal on the bike, and
Hmm.
you don't really. And it's weird because this year it feels like a lot of the dudes, minus the 250s and Deegan and Cole, like Deegan and Cole Davies are throwing some nasty ones, but like a lot of the dudes this year, they win a main event and they just do this like weird arm in their stomach kind of yes look.
Yeah,
No one's throwing like crazy whips anymore. Like we need to bring it back. And Roxon, if he wins a main event, you can guarantee you're getting a whip. Barsha, you're
yeah.
probably gonna get some crazy leg
RC
swag.
and Stu were big on the whips.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
we need to bring that back.
yeah. So
I like it.
I petition to bring back whips instead of the one handers, but you know,
I think that someone needs to bring a t-shirt out. Maybe I'll even
yeah,
petition my buddy Tim over in the UK to make a t-shirt out of this photo and said make whips great again.
yeah, make
Uh,
whip great again.
I feel
He
like
said,
those
"I'll
would
you want to
sell.
do a whip in this photo for sure."
Yeah.
Here,
No, there's no way. Although who's in the very back down there that's like kind of
coming
trying.
up,
Who's coming up? Is that um
was
Who
wet. This is
is that?
2021. Who was? I don't know who that was back then. This is 2021.
Cowie. Is that
The
Anderson?
Cowie. Yeah, that's
It's,
Anderson.
it's Anderson, yeah.
Yeah,
But he's in like, oh, you know what? Yeah, this is the when they all wore the Blue Angels.
yeah, the military round.
Yeah,
San
this is the
Diego.
military round. Okay, yeah, that's right. So this is San Diego
Yep.
of 21.
Yep. And
But it is messed up that we can figure that out
the
based on one photo.
oh yeah,
Like
I know it because that's one reason for one, it's a sick
Bogle's still
photo.
racing factory bikes. So you know it was a while ago.
Yeah, and freaking the story behind this photo is how I remember it being San Diego because this one's kind of wild. But
Wouldn't it be 22 then? Because um Tomac wins the Supercross title in 20.
was it this? Uh,
And Cooper
I,
Webb has the number one plate, so he's running the number one plate as the champion from the previous year.
yeah, you're right. It
Yeah,
could be
this is
that.
22.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah,
Anyway, I'm just
I
nerding
don't
out
really.
now.
I'm horrible at keeping remembering stuff, but uh, yeah, this photo was super sick, and it's crazy too. Like the story behind it is why I picked this one.
Okay.
Honestly, I did something a little frowned upon. This was before I was getting credentials. I uh, I was like, you know what? Because like working for the airlines, I was like, I want to go to like a supercross race, and actually, this was my very first supercross race that I ever went to, which is crazy. But I was like,
No
I want to go
way.
to like, yeah, like I didn't really follow the sport a whole lot until I got back into riding dirt bikes myself, which was in
Okay.
like 2019. Like I loved it during the Stu and Chad Reed days, and then there was like a long gap till about when I got out of high school till 2018. I think I stopped watching and stopped following it a whole lot. But I was like, you know what? I want to go to a supercross race that's like a crazy one. Like, and people go to Atlanta, they go to all these. I was like, I want to go to a baseball stadium. This is when they did it in Petco Park
Yeah.
in
I
San
was at
Diego.
this race.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
sick. So the story, sorry,
You're good.
I was working for the airlines and I was like, I'm gonna go to San Diego. Like, when you fly, you have to kind of pick and choose when you're flying standby, like what looks wide open, what you can get on. It was like San Diego is manageable, so I'm gonna go to there, and I'm gonna attempt to. And this is frowned upon. I don't any photographers out there watching, like I wouldn't do this, and I get asked about it all the time, and I still don't recommend it. But I took my camera. I looked up the rules for the stadium or whatever, and it was like can't have a lens longer than 6 inches or whatever. And I was like, oh dang, my 7200 ain't gonna fit. But I detached it. I threw it in like my little brother's bag because I took my little brother-in-law, and getting there was the worst thing ever because I live in North Carolina. We're not used to snow. We got to the airport the night before. Uh, I think it was Friday. We were flying out, and we got to the race, or we got to the airport the night before, and it was snowing. So we get on this plane at like 11 o'clock at night in Charlotte, and they want to delay it because of the snow. So we're sitting on this plane. I watched a whole movie before we pushed off the gate,
Yeah.
and we finally push off the gate, and they're like, "Oh, well, we got to go de-icing." So we get in the de-icing line and we do all that, and then we go we go sit out there for another 2 hours, and they're like, "Oh, well, now we need fuel." So we had to come back to the gate, but it was already like 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was like, "Well, there's no crew out here to bring us back in the gate, so we got to sit here." So we sat on the gate, and at this point, I'm like, "There's no way we're making it to this race on time." Like I had bought my tickets and everything, so we eventually finally got back into the gate at like, I don't know, probably 4 in the morning. And I was like, well, they canceled the flight. The next one's at like 7 a.m. So we just hung out in the airport till about 7. And then we finally made it on the flight, and it finally took off. And we got there. We flew across from Charlotte to San Diego.
You would have
I,
still got there in the morning though. It's a 3 hour difference.
yeah, we still got there at a good time. Like Fan
Mhm.
Fest was still going on, which Fan Fest at this race sucked because it was forever away.
Oh, and it's like there's like that. This is the broken up pits because it's Petco.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is
yeah,
still
dude.
Petco.
So we finally made it. I didn't think we were gonna make it. We did, and then that's when I was like, you know what? All right, I'm gonna sneak my camera in here, and I detached my lens. I gave him the lens, and I kept my. I think I took my wide angle at the time, and I put my wide angle on my camera, and there was like, is your lens detachable? I was like, nope. And they let me in, and I got in there and I shot. I was going down like almost near the safety holds where that's credential people are supposed to go, and I went down there
Yep.
shooting and had all these people like security hitting me up and was like, you work here? I was like, yep. And I didn't know at the time that this was like a really bad idea, so I highly do not recommend doing it. Because if you ever want to get in this industry and you do that and people find out about it, you're probably you're gonna paint a bad name for yourself. But it worked. I got this shot, and then I was like, holy crap, like how many factory dudes can you get in the air and like almost the same depth of field? And this one worked. And the funny part is I
Yeah,
always
there's like $15 million in the air right now.
yeah, dude, it's crazy. Like I
Maybe
still
more.
to this day, even with credentials, I try to get a shot like this all the time, like just to see if I can do it again. But it's so hard. Like just the timing has to be perfect, and you know, you're not gonna have like this shot. People are going like four wide off the face of a triple.
This must be a main event because everyone's there too.
Yeah, like you have almost every factory dude in the air in one shot, which is mind blowing. And I got back home, or we got back on the plane afterwards, and then it hit me that I accidentally shot the whole thing in JPEG. And I was like, oh no. Like I got like the worst sick stomach feeling. And I was like, oh God, I'm not gonna be able to bring these photos back and make them look halfway decent. But luckily it worked out, and this shot was one of them. And there was another shot, like a wide angle of the stadium that I've always wanted to get. And I got it there at Petco. And that's kind of how the story behind this one, really.
Beautiful stadium. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Let's move on to this next one here with the Cowboy from Ohio, by the way. Uh,
He's
Aaron
AP.
Plessinger, AP.
Yeah.
Fun to be around this guy. Like you could be
Yeah.
having a pretty shitty day, and if you see Aaron Plessinger, he might turn it around for you.
Yeah, he's every rider's favorite rider pretty much. He's my
Yeah.
mom's favorite rider. So uh no, this shot was sick. I love this. This was at Daytona. And
Mm,
Daytona is the only place like you don't see them. They don't really come up like if you go to a supercross race now, they have their like the podium. They used to like, they would a lot of
yeah, it
come
opens
out.
up and psh.
Yeah, they'd ride out and whatnot, but they don't really do that a whole lot anymore unless you're like Jet Lawrence. But Daytona's podium is different. Like they got that big, massive thing, and everyone was out front shooting it. And I went out there and shot a bunch. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go around the back and try to shoot something from the back. And Posty, which is a lines filmer, he was back there, and I didn't want to get in his way. So I think I like ducked down or I stood behind him with my camera up in the air, and I just started clicking off a bunch of shots. And on the back of the screen, it didn't look that cool. It looked like really overexposed and whatever. And I was like, oh, that would have been sick. And then I got back home, started toying with it. And then it just came out with this crazy, almost like horror movie
Yeah, it's like
poster kind of vibe.
apocalyptic.
Yeah, dude. It reminds me of like God, what's that movie?
Like a zombie
No,
Plessinger here.
it's the dude Jeepers Creepers. It gives me like a Jeepers Creepers
Yeah.
vibe with the hat. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
this
yeah.
yeah, dude, you could slap Jeepers Creepers logo on there and be like Plessinger edition. But
Mm.
yeah, this photo is sick, and I'm really bad about trying to recreate photos. So who knows? This year there might be another one with like Anderson or something with some green smoke. That'd be kind of cool. We'll see what happens though.
That
But
would
yeah,
be cool. So there's a filter on this? Is that like if do you've made it that way?
no. So this like they just had so much freaking smoke, and
Yeah.
as he drove through it, it just kind of engulfed him,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and kind of how it worked, and just kind of got like the top half. His bike was already gone, as you can see. But yeah, there was like no
It's
added
crazy that the
smoke.
smoke, like yeah, the back fender, nothing is poking through.
Yeah, and there's like nothing added to it. This is just all just straight. I mean, it's edited, obviously, colors brought down.
Yeah, yeah.
It was super overexposed, but luckily, when you shoot raw, you can kind of fix things. This is one that I'm gonna eventually, like this year, I think I'm gonna get a print of this. I only got one print so far. I want to start printing some more work, but I think I'm gonna print this one for sure.
And has Aaron seen this photo?
Uh, I think so. Yeah. When I posted it, I think he reshared it, and
Hmm.
then on my Instagram, RJ Hampshire was like, "Yep, this photo wins." So that was
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool.
Badass. That's cool. And those that's saying something from those guys because they've seen millions of photos of themselves, which
Yeah.
might sound a little bit narcissistic, but it's the world they live in. The
Yeah.
KJSC always produces some neat photos. It's a cool opportunity. This must be during qualifying.
Actually,
Where is
this
this?
right here, this is
Or it's a
cool to
day
me.
race.
Yeah, it was a day race.
Okay.
Um, and what's special about this one is like, obviously I shot a lot of local races around here.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
at my local track, which is freaking 30 minutes up the road. And this is my little buddy Mason Bradshaw. And he's a local of mine. And this is at uh, Denver, Colorado. And he got invited to do the KTM Junior Challenge. And when his mom like had messaged me, it was like, "Hey, like Mason, we're coming to Denver. Can you get some shots at Mason for me?" And I was like, "Oh, no way, that's sick." And they show up to Denver, and sure enough, Mason whoops everyone's ass and takes the win. And this is him coming over the finish line, and it's just cool to see like someone that you started shooting like when you were a nobody, and
Yeah.
they kind of follow you, and now here he is, like freaking shooting him coming over the finish line. And he ended up going to the finale, which was in Vegas, I believe, or
Hmm.
whenever they did the junior challenge finale. I don't know if it was
Hmm.
SMX or if it was at the final round, but yeah, if you win the challenge, you make it to the finale.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep. So he
Hmm.
made it, which was really cool because then they got to go out there and do that. Unfortunately, at the finale, I think he got like one of the like I don't know if his bike was defective or whatever, but
Yeah, I got a
he
little. This is electric ones, right?
yeah. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think he got a dud that race or something happened, but he didn't do as hot, but it was just still cool to see like him out there and seeing someone little that comes up to you at the local track and it's like, dude, hey, and I filmed edits of this kid and whatnot.
Yeah.
And Bradshaw's, they've always been cool to me and
I was
supportive
gonna
of
say
my
the
work.
parents must love you.
Yeah, dude, they've always been supportive of me. So I definitely had to throw him in the mix for sure.
No doubt. Yeah, taking home the win in front of the hometown crowd. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, dude.
All right, so let's switch up the flavor a little bit. Let's go four wheels.
Yeah. This one, dude, this shot was so freaking cool. And I didn't even know it was gonna happen. But so a lot of times you'll see most media guys these days, like they have their clicks, they have their shooters, they got their riders and clients and whatnot. And you'll see them out at the test track shooting like super sick stuff. And I'm one of them people that like, dang, like I would love to be able to come out to a test track or you know, show up at freaking Star Racing, Carmichael Ranch or whatever, or Dog Pound and, do some like press shots and whatnot. But you got to like, maybe in a couple years I'll get there, but for now. But this shot, Gavin from Ayala Media that used to be the Deegan's filmer and
Yep.
whatnot and did all that stuff, he hit me up and I was like, hey, you want to shoot Brian doing some Can-Am stuff? And I was like, sure. Because they had just moved well, they had a house in North Carolina, but they had just built another one that was like 30 minutes from me.
Hmm.
And I was like, dude, I got to go out to Brian Deegan's house. Are you kidding me? I was like, I called out of work and everything. I was like, yeah, I'm going. I'll be there. So Gavin sent me out there to shoot this. And it was like Deegan doing some Can-Am work for stuff for them. And they wanted a bunch of shots of him riding it. and he was freaking sending this thing to the moon. And still to this day, my biggest regret is not asking for a ride in it because he was giving people rides and stuff. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to, bother him. So I was like, I'm gonna step back. But damn it, if I could have gotten a ride in that thing with Brian, bro, that would have been sick because he was jumping and stuff. But I didn't. But this shot, he was like, here, go. I'm just gonna smash this berm. And I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, you're
I
just
don't
gonna
think he
like,
said it like that. He said it probably more like, "Hey, I'm gonna smash this berm right here, Derek."
yeah, dude, I'm gonna smash the back of this berm. And you maybe stand over there. I was like, oh,
Derek, you want to ride with me real quick?
yeah, dude, I would have been like, hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I was looking at the berm, and it's like, a lot of berms are hard packed on the other side and whatnot. And I was like, dude, you're just gonna run into the back of this thing, like it's gonna snap the freaking arms, or you're just gonna plow into it and nothing. You're just gonna stop. So I'm standing here on the backside of it, like, all right, let's see what happens. Dude, he hit that thing like hauling ass, and I was like, he just come over it, and all this dirt's going everywhere and like hitting me and shit. And I'm like, just the camera button, like, hopefully it gets something. And that's kind of how this one came about. And just, dude, I wish I could have found like the full image, but my hard drive was being dumb. But if you can see the whole thing,
Yeah.
it's
No, it looks blasted. That is super cool. And yeah, that's another thing I was going to talk to you about is just like the fact that like there's a fine line, but like a lot of photographers, especially in this industry, they start out as fans.
yeah,
And you get an opportunity to go to these like practice tracks or like sometimes, hey, one day you might end up going to Travis Pastrana's house. And as
yeah,
much as it's like very cool to be there, it's at the same time, it's a work day and you need to be
yeah,
able to compose yourself to
yeah,
create stuff and capture things like this.
yeah.
Um, like how do you navigate that of just sort of like putting on your game face when they put on their game face and do what you're there to do?
I mean, secretly, I think all of us, a lot of us, maybe not the people who've been there, doing this for 20 years. I'm still pretty fresh at it, like
Hmm.
years shooting pro stuff now. But on the inside, I'm fangirling. Like, even at the races now, like some crazy event happens. Like, I'm usually like, when I should be taking the photo, I'm like looking at the screen, like, oh my God, like this is sick. But I know that I'm there to do a job, and you got to keep it professional and whatnot. And that's one reason I didn't ask him for a ride that day, because I was like, no, I'm not going to be that person to like beg for a ride. I'm just going to show up, shoot what I'm supposed to shoot, And I think I maybe spoke to Deegan for 5 minutes at the end. Like I didn't, get in his way. He had a bunch of other people there, and he was actually trying to get out of there pretty quick to go like fish or something or on the lake. So I just kept it cool to myself, and that's kind of what I do at the races now. Like, yeah, there's clicks and you have your friends, but at the end of the day, we're all there to do a job. We're all there to shoot. You know, we
Who
can
are you
fan
closest with then? Who's your buddy?
at
Your
at the
photo
races.
Yeah.
Um, I would say um he don't go to all of them, but Trevor Nelson. Trevor
Okay.
Nelson is super sick. Yeah, like he usually does a lot of the West Coast ones, and his style is unbelievable. And a lot of my work is inspired by him, especially uh, the stuff where it all kind of blends together. I don't know if people
Hmm.
who follow me know what I'm talking about, but
Yep.
yeah, a lot of that is inspired by Trevor. Um, and I don't take credit for anything. Like, you know, you know, all my work is inspired by someone pretty much, and they
Fair
deserve it.
enough. Well, I think you've got some creativity in your own right.
Yeah.
Before we get to this next photo, who is on your moto photography Mount Rushmore? Putting you on the spot here. But yeah, like it has to be moto photographers. There's four of them. Who is it?
So I get 4 spots.
Four spots.
Cudby.
I knew that guy was gonna be on
Yeah,
there.
Cudby for sure. Mike
Has to
Emery.
be.
Cudby, Mike Emery. Um, let's see. Trevor Nelson. And if I had to pick a fourth, that's
You
the
have to
tough.
pick, you have to figure out who you're gonna piss off, Garth or
Oh yeah, no, no, no. Yeah. Garth or Swanee, either
yeah,
or.
that's what I'm saying.
Um, Garth gave me Garth gave yeah, definitely Garth. Garth gave me a ride to the hotel like last I think it was like Washougal. But no, if you go on like Garth's like his personal portfolio page, like the iconic picture of Bubba over the scrub, like where he's just dragging bar on the Suzuki. Like that's a Garth photo. Like, dude, that's sick. Swanee's sick too, though. He the stuff he recently just did with Axel out in the desert. Like, I don't know if you've seen that yet or not, but
Hmm.
those shots were sweet. But yeah, Garth.
The title of this podcast is going to be DNC hates Ryan Swanberg. You know this.
Yeah, let's not do that. I actually, you know, and, and and I'm not gonna really say like too much on it, but like I feel like Swan doesn't like me that much anymore. I asked him, I straight up asked him one day, I was like, "Do you not like me?" He was like, "No." I was like, "Okay." I was like, no, I just left it at that, but who knows?
Hmm. He
Yeah.
lied.
Yeah. I don't know. It's cool. I mean, I still respect them. I at the races, like I've done my fair share to piss a lot of people off, I'm sure, getting in people's way and whatnot. So
Yeah, it's photography's like that. It is a very delicate thing. Everyone's very serious about what they do. It's
yeah.
not easy whatsoever.
No.
But yeah, like um it's just you got to make your way and you got to do the right thing and do it
Yeah. And we
consistently.
all we all make mistakes too. Like
Yeah.
I've learned from mine, so now I'm very like diligent of where I am at the track, and I always try to like make sure I'm not blocking anyone. And this goes for like anyone out there who wants to get in the industry. Like just know that if you're new coming in, you're you're there to do a job, but there's a lot of people who've been there for 20 years who are there to do a more important job or get a more important shot. And they tell this at almost every race. Like there's people out there who are required to get shots. And
Yeah.
there's been times when I mess people up getting those shots, and it's a bummer, and I've learned from it. But yeah, just a little bit of advice for anyone who wanting to get in. Just know that there's people out there who are there and who've been doing it way longer than you, and just be careful. That's
So
kind of
with this next photo,
yep.
the only person who's going to yell at you at this event is Wes if you happen to get in
Uh-huh.
his way.
Yeah.
This is Verb Classic.
Oh yeah, this is a classic. I don't think Wes is gonna get mad at me on this one. This one right here, this is a rough one to talk about. Like, so this was the Verb Classic. I think it was the first one they did. Well, the first one that they had just brought back or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, can I come shoot it for you?" And he was like, "Yeah, dude." And I went out there and I shot it all weekend. Like it was such a sick weekend. It was the turnout was sick. Chad Reed and them were there. Like there was so Bennick, like a bunch of amateurs that were just top dog. And this kid right here, they had an award called the King of the Classic. It was a tongue twister if you say it like 10 times. But basically what it was, I think it was whoever won the most motos in however many classes they signed up. I think like if you signed up for like C and 25 plus and whatever, whoever had the most signups and most wins was the king of the classic. And so this right here is Clayton Sane. He ended up winning king of the classic, and it was so sick. Like the kid was hyped. Like everyone, all his friends were hyped. Like Wes was hyped. We were all like running at him when he was like winning when we gave him the award, and he couldn't believe it. And just the vibes were like so cool.
Hmm.
And then I think it was either the week later or 2 weeks later, or like somewhere like right after that. He went up there to, I believe it was the Cody Cragg Memorial Race
Hmm.
in Muddy Creek, Tennessee.
Yep.
And he was racing and his bike blew up over the start, whatever. And he ended up breaking his neck and dying. But so
Whoa.
yeah. Like you go from like the highest
Yeah, like
moment of
this is one of the greatest moments of his young life there.
yeah, and then racing's dangerous and it's a brutal sport that we do. And every rider knows the consequence of it, really. So the consequences that it could have. But
Hmm.
the fact that I shot this photo, and the family ended up using it for like his memorial, and I ended up filming like a whole video, compiling. Like I hit up Verb, I hit up everybody, like all my other photographer buddies that were at the class, and I was like, hey, like send me your photos. Like I'm gonna put together this like video, and they ended up playing it, his like memorial and whatnot, and his funeral. Yeah, so it
Hmm.
was that's kind of how this one is in there.
That's an incredible story, and like I think that sort of speaks volumes to the impact that photography can have. Is there's so many times that you said you take 12,000 photos.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it becomes quote unquote disposable,
Yeah.
but for this particular image,
Mm-hmm.
and many like it, like for the parents, the loved ones of this young man, is that these are their like lasting moments
Yeah.
of him. You know what I mean? Like like if you're a parent who's lost a child, I can only imagine that you've gone over the photos
Mm-hmm.
an unlimited amount of times and will for the rest of your life. And yeah, man, like you capturing this moment was incredibly important, and like it might not have seemed so at the time, but it certainly turned out to be.
Yeah, definitely for sure. It's like even like you said, like I take millions of freaking photos a year, like cool photos, like of people throwing whips and fire and flame, and we'll get to those. But like this one, just and it's nothing even crazy, but it's just a good black and
Yeah,
white show, really
catches the
good
moment.
emotion. Yeah, and it's kids like so happy, just and like a week or two later, he's gone.
Hmm.
It's cool, but yeah, at least I can provide this moment to his parents for the rest of their lives.
Definitely. That's cool to be able to share that with someone, man. That's cool. I grabbed this off of your social because it was basically one of the first photos from when you must have just started going to the
Yeah,
races at the local tracks and stuff like that, because there was like a clear line of like I'm not doing these types of photos anymore. And it's funny because your portrait photos and your like the event photos had a very specific flavor to them.
yeah,
Like they had a very, it was kind of a cool, like all the images were very kind of cooled off, a lot of purples, a lot of greens mixed in there. And then this stuck
yeah.
out to me. What's going on
if you
here?
if you scroll down my feed, yeah, it goes from like super crazy like dirt bike racing, and then all of a sudden it's like bam, it's like completely different style up change. But yeah, you were right. This is definitely one of the first local races right at the road for me. He I think the caption of this was like trying the acid trip, or I found some of that acid Mike was
Yes.
talking about, something
Hmm.
like that. And that refers back to Mike Emery from Align. He does super like this is one of my favorite styles in photography. Is just like slow shutter with a flash and just making weird shit go on. And that's where this came from. I saw him, I saw Mike doing it, and I was like, you know what? I want to try that at a local race. And if you try this shot in daylight, which this was still daylight, like it don't really work that good. It needs to be kind of dark. That's why it works for Supercross
Hmm.
because it's dark in the stadiums. But it was kind of overcast, and it was in the shadows, and it kind of worked. And honestly, it's not really my favorite like rendition of it, I guess you could say, but it was me attempting it.
Yeah, honestly, the reason why I grabbed it is I could tell that this was like probably your first stab at this sort of shot.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And me at the time, I was like, "Oh, dude, this is sick. Like,
Yeah, crushed it.
I'm not gonna shoot a supercross race. This is as close as I'm gonna get to having lights and whatnot." And I posted it, and people digged it, and I was like, "Okay, I'll keep trying this style." But again, this style I completely credit to Mike Emery. If he ever watches this, like that dude is the man of this, and I try it even at the races today. Like I get like a good one every now and then, but like his are just I don't know what he does. We shoot with the same camera, the same lens, everything. And for some reason his are just better than mine. I don't know what it is, but
Hey, it's not the equipment, man. It's the operator.
yeah, dude.
Like if that were the case, I'd snipe your camera out of your hands and head down there myself.
Yeah.
And
That's the
I'd
difference
probably be still
between
walking around in running man mode.
right.
It doesn't even have that, I assume.
Yeah, they still have auto.
Yeah, it's just auto. Yeah, that's funny.
No, it's
Uh, you shoot full manual though, right?
yeah, yeah.
Fair enough.
Full manual.
How did you start to figure out like the different settings, like what to change your f-stop, your aperture, all that fun stuff. Like you just this that trial and error.
Yeah, pretty much. Like when I got into it, like when I got into photography back in like 2012, I like when I get into something, like I dive deep into it, and I watched I watched a bunch of Fro Knows Photo on YouTube. If anybody knows who that is,
Okay.
he's like a tutorial guy. I watched hours and hours and hours on how to shoot manual and whatnot, and just started going out in the yard and toying with manual settings. And now, thankfully, at the races, like Supercross is pretty hard to shoot at on some tracks because the lighting is just horrible, and you really got to know what you're doing to shoot manual out there.
And there's a lot of shit in the air too.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot. If you're not shooting manual at a lot of Supercross races, you're gonna just get trash images. It's like because you got to crank your ISO way up there, and then you got to like fix it later. It's a lot of work.
Do you ever have you ever been able to shoot with a flash at all, or do they let you?
Yeah. So yeah, there was a brief stint last year when during racing we weren't allowed to use flash, but then I think Mike and all them they went to Sean and they asked a bunch of riders like, "Hey, does this bother you or whatever?" And they're like, "No." And they finally, luckily, started letting us use flash during the racing. But that's how most of those blurry shots are taken. Like behind the line, you put a flash on your camera, you
Hmm.
set your shutter speed down, and then you just freaking twist away until you get one if you're lucky that looks
Perfect.
halfway.
The what ends up on the cutting room floor for you guys, as much as you
Oh,
guys come up with some unbelievable photos, you're like, what the fuck is that?
dude, I shoot 12,000 photos a weekend, and I save I deliver about I narrow that down to about 2,000. But what you see on my Instagram is like probably I usually
Like
put
20
aside
photos from the
yeah, I
weekend.
usually put aside like 20 just absolute bangers, and that's it. Like most of the rest of them are just kind of like just typical shots that you would see, which granted, when you're shooting for clients on the floor, like you don't got time to go run up to the top of the stadium and just shoot. Like if it was up to me, again, this is another idea that I saw a line do, and I would love to do it.
Hmm.
But they took a shot at Petco Park where they had God, what's his name? I forget his name right off the top of my tongue. But he went. They had Mike and all them still in the stadium, but he went across the street to a hotel and went on top of the hotel outside of Petco.
Hmm.
Shot just a massive shot of the hotel and the firework or the of the stadium and the fireworks going on inside of it. And it is like the most sickish. Like that's the creative shit that I like. That's what I want to do is just have full creative control. But when you're shooting for people, you got certain shots you got to get, so you don't really have time to you know get out there and do that cool stuff.
Fair enough. Can be a
I
little bit
usually make it
difficult.
work. I try to get like I'll see a shot early in the week at the track, and I'm like, all right, I know this is here. This is a cool shot that I think would look cool later on. If I have time, I'll run and grab it. And sometimes it works.
Yeah, and like it's a learning experience too. Like I went to Loretta Lynn's to shoot for the first time this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that I didn't shoot in 2023 because
Is that the rain year?
yeah, that would be licensed to ruin cameras.
Yeah.
Like I think Tom destroyed a zoom camera
Mm-hmm.
in the process. But yeah, like throughout the week you start to realize like what areas of the track is going to have what kind of light and when, and you know what I mean? Like, 'cause the sun's going to move around throughout the day. Same thing with a place like Colorado when you go there, and it's sort of like if you shoot later in the day, all the sun's going to be everything's going to be backlit versus in the sun in the morning, everything's like the foreground, whatnot. So it's kind of neat. I wish this photo had turned out better as far as how I must have saved it shitty. But it still looks pretty impressive as it is. First of all, he's got the big old number one in the air, red boots, and it literally looks like Hayden Deegan is bursting into flames.
Yeah.
Tell me about this photo.
Oh, dude, between this is probably number one shot for me for now.
I'm so glad that I saved it shitty and then it's blurry as all fuck then, yeah.
It's fine. Just go look at it on Instagram. It looks better.
Yeah.
But
That was secretly the reason why looks like crap, is so
yeah,
that I can send people to your Instagram.
yeah. No, this shot was really cool. Like I said, it's probably my favorite to date. And the reason for that is that it was at was it Arlington, the Speedway SMX round last year, and everybody, when it comes down to like the last 2 minutes of a race, everyone's like scattering to get to where they want to shoot that finish at.
Yep.
And you know, once you're in that spot, it's hard. Like if say you see a lot of shots, I do them too, where you get like a wide angle of the finish from like almost right under the takeoff of the jump.
Hmm.
And I was toying with that idea. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that. You'll get the crowd in the background, you'll get the whole stadium and the crowd in the background. But there was already like two guys over there getting that angle. So I like booked it. And this was a long track to go around. There was like no tunnels to go under. So I had to run all the way around the track. And I got around there. I was freaking out of breath. And I seen this horde of photographers kind of almost face on with the landing. And I was like, well, I guess that's the spot. But what I do is a lot of times at these races, I always look for where that big fireball pyro thing is positioned. And
Hmm.
I knew that it was kind of like right behind the finish line. And I was like, all right, this is like a epic timing thing. Can't believe it worked out. But everyone was you already had your two guys getting the wide angle. You had 30 plus other dudes shooting it straight on. And I was the only one that decided, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go all the way down right beside the start or the finish line and try it. Cause I was like, hopefully the fireball will go off as soon as he goes over the finish line. Hopefully it will be properly exposed. And hopefully Deegan does something cool. And sure enough, it all worked out. Perfect timing. I was the only one that got this shot that weekend. And yeah, it was just super sick. And like earlier with the Barsha one, it was like 4 frames blurry, perfectly center, like in focus. And then the rest of them were like kind of blurry, out of focus a little bit, which
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Like, yeah, this is your key frame, if you can call it that.
yeah,
It worked out absolutely perfect. Like, you're like, it literally looks like the explosion is coming out of Hayden, and
yeah,
it's a little bit of a microcosm for obviously like this is this last year, correct? Because he was already wearing the number one from being the SMX champion from the previous year.
yeah.
And yeah, well, he's got the Deegan like the Danger Boy helmet scheme on there. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really neat that Star Racing Yamaha has basically allowed him to sort of cut himself out of the herd because they
Yeah,
always look the same. But for him, they're like, ah, we understand this guy's special.
right.
Although I think Cole Davies is gonna have something to say about that this
Dude,
year.
Cole
Whoa,
is sick, dude.
dude, and he's
Cole,
slick with it too.
yeah. Like this past weekend, we were at Glendale,
Hmm.
and Deegan and Cole, like Cole was out front just throwing the like sickest turn down whips over the triples, and then Deegan just following right behind him, just getting sick with it too. But like, dude, Cole looks good. Like,
Yeah,
and I freaking like Deegan gets a lot of haters, but me,
of
I'm a
course.
Deegan fan because honestly, if it wasn't for Deegan, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now because that's kind of how I got in with Verb. Like I heard that Deegan was coming to one of my local tracks, and I was like, oh crap. And this was back when he was on the Super Mini.
Yeah.
So I was like, Deegan's coming. I gotta call out of work. I gotta get down to the track and I gotta shoot him. And I showed up and I shot it and I sent it to Verb. And that's the first time I ever spoke to Verb and Weston. I was like, hey, I got these shots of Hayden on a Super Mini. Do y'all want them? And they took them, and that's kind of how I made that connection. And then eventually it led me to shooting this. So like a chain of reactions. And
Yeah.
there's no other person that I would want that. I mean, there's a bunch of people that this shot would be sick with, but like the fact that it's him is cool. A lot of people actually thought this shot was fake too, like the fire was like added in, but no, this is all real.
Neat. That is super, super cool. So that's it. That's all, man. Where can people follow and where and yeah, where are they gonna find your work? Like when they see stuff on social, and actually this is one of the questions I like to I kind of ask of my of guests on here is what is a sort of some signature characteristics of a DNC photo?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at DNC Photos, um, or pretty much Moto Playground. Anything you see from like a pro race, like Supercross or outdoors, that's photo related throughout the day on a race weekend comes from me 90% of the time. Um, but a signature DNC photo is, I think, a lot of people like to stick to like natural looking colors.
Hmm.
And I do love a good natural looking color. There's a lot of photos that I do that style where it just kind of looks natural, a little bit contrasty. But something just about a freaking like almost oversaturated, colorful mess to me is cool. Like if you, I've been
Okay.
doing this thing this year, like
Color vomit.
yeah, and I like to do one style that I've kind of done. I picked up on Trevor Nelson's, um, like it's like screen blending photos,
Yep.
but I started turning them into like a ten slide panorama.
Yep.
And they all just merge together and it just makes this like one long consecutive weird mess of a photo really, but people dig it. I think it looks cool. It's I haven't really seen other people in the industry doing it. There's like maybe a few that try it, but yeah, that's kind of my style. Just bright, colorful, crazy, sharp stuff.
Fair enough. Well, dude, I appreciate you making some time. I know you're still trying to try and get some go live later. I don't know if we've dipped too far into that for this evening. I know you got to go to work first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
But yeah, this has been really fun to have you on the podcast. I hope that we can. I know I'll see you at a race coming up in the next little while here. But yeah, this was fun.
yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. This is like the first podcast I've ever done, so like I probably
Cool,
sound like a nervous wreck, but
dude.
hey,
No, I think you crushed it.
this is fun to do, and yeah, I like the series. I watched the one you did yesterday, or I watched one yesterday that you did with Post It Random to kind of
Yep.
get prepared. So this is a cool series, and I'd like to see other people on here because I geek out over people's shots and you know stuff like that. So
Well,
it's
I've got a verbal confirmation from Mike, so and you can
oh
say that
sick.
you did it before he did.
Hell yeah, that's cool. Yeah, hopefully I don't know if he watches this, but yeah, if he does, dude, he's the man. Like him, everyone out there is so sick, and nothing but respect for those guys. And thanks for treating me fairly, I guess.
Dude, you're a rock star, and yeah, you should believe that of yourself. So don't hang up just yet. But for podcast sake, we're gonna cut things off right there. Everyone, go follow DNC Photos on Instagram. Thanks for listening.